Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to now the 18th session of Coffee with Ashish. And today we have a very special guest from an amazing company, which is in many ways that benchmarks for the startup world in an Indian context, Redbus. And before we get into conversation with Prakash, who's the CEO of Redbus, we just wanted to recap. We've talked about so many products on this show with our amazing guests, right? From car to air to hotels to aggregators to GDS. But we've missed out on one very niche category, which we have all experienced, the good, bad, and ugly of while growing up, which is the bus segment. And I personally relate to it, in a big way because I remember when I was studying 15 years back in my college at IIT Roorkee. This was 150 kilometers away from Delhi, and I used to do very frequent road trips between my place and the college. And the whole messy experience of choosing between a private bus from an RTC bus, trying to get a ticket on time, trying to then get a seat, even if I have a ticket, which happens only in our country, as most of you know. And the whole experience was extremely tough, complicated, but we never really thought about that we could actually do something about it. And we just assumed. And I remember we as friends used to sort of shuttle between that. Okay, now you're going to sit with the driver for next 2 hours, then I'll sit in the seat. And this whole experience was part of the life. And as always, I have a small cartoon to show you to capture these experiences which we have all seen in buses in India, where people are able to just catch on and lash on to a seat, and towards the bottom right is when the break happens, and everybody is trying to do this break dance to actually just you know sort of calm themselves and control themselves. And this used to be a normal situation in even intercity buses, in India. I worked before Three Gentlemen from BITS Pilani, led by Faninder Sama in 2005, actually thought this is a problem worth solving. And when I remember I met Fani 10 years back during a Thai summit, and he mentioned about how this was actually one of those cliched startup stories where the founder is actually trying to solve a problem for himself or herself, and actually ends up creating a product that solves his problem first, but then it actually becomes and evolves into a larger product. And what a product it has been. I mean, as far as I can remember, and I think Ashish and I worked with so many startups over the last decade. I think it's one of the truly scalable products coming out of India, solving a genuine problem of the Indian ecosystem, and actually made an exit for its investors and founders in, I think, a span of under 7 to 8 years, which is like the proper typical by the book life cycle curve of a startup. So I think it's been a huge success story. And now Redbus has become a more. It started off as an entrepreneurial journey, but now it's a more professionally run company led by Prakash now. And Redbus, as you know, has been now part of the Go MMT larger group, which is the largest travel company in India. Now they do more than 1 lakh plus routes. They've got more than 2,500 odd bus partners with them. They have got 23 different RTCs integrated, and they claim to be the largest online bookable bus integrated platform. And I loved when I was reading about Redbus Prakash, the fact that a bus journey as small as Ayodhya to Faizabad, which is only 19 minutes or so, to Delhi to Balgaon, which takes almost 33 hours to cover 1800 odd kilometers, are on the platform of Redbus. So that's the range which they serve, right? And they've also recently launched Espresso Cityway as a new product, which I'm sure Prakash is going to talk about. And Prakash took over the reins almost 6 years or so back, and now over the course of last 5 to 6 years, he's actually scaled the company into this larger bus integrated platform. They've gone global, and before being at Redbus, Prakash was also part of the InfoEdge group, where he built Shiksha.com, and I am personally a huge fan of Shiksha.com, Prakash, because of the work I've done in education space. I think it's an amazing company you built from the ground up. And also, you manage JeevanSathi.com, which actually changed the face of matrimonial in India, taking it from a paper-based alliances to an online integrated platform. I think this again was a game changer, which you did, Prakash. And now I think at Redbus also you are following the same trail which you have done, just transforming, scaling it, making it much bigger, better, efficient. and again, taking the company global. And you've also expanded into other travel segments like bus hire, car, bike pooling, pilgrimages, which we were talking about is an amazing sector coming up. Even post-COVID, we believe that pilgrimages is going to be the first sector which will open up within the travel. And it's so amazing to hear your story as well, Prakash, and how you have been. I mean, you won the top 40 in the 40 hottest business leaders in from ET, and I would like you to clarify if it was hottest because you're handsome and hot, or does it mean something else? So I'll leave it to you to clarify to us. But jokes apart, a very warm welcome, and it's a privilege to have you with us, Prakash. Thank you for being here. And now I'm gonna, hand it over to my colleague Ashish to have a conversation with you in terms of how you see and how do you crystal ball this whole thing which is happening with us right now. So over to you, Ashish, while I sit back and enjoy my coffee.
Thank you, Karthik.
Right. So, Prakash, I couldn't help, getting this thought in my mind that when we were kids, we called taxis Kali Pili because that's what the color. So how did Red Bus name come across in the first place? Anything to do with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the State Road Transport Corporation buses, right? They are typically painted red in color. So if you look at APSRTC, the Andhra Pradesh State Road Transport, that's in red in color. A lot of the buses in Maharashtra, MSRTC is red in color. So as Karthik mentioned, when Funny and his co-founders, they were all originally from Andhra. They were working in Bangalore as software developers, but they were all originally from Andhra. So I guess when they were looking for names, I think they zeroed in on Red Bus because it was the most popular color of buses. So
yeah. I had a sense there would be a background of similar nature. Yeah. But coming back to that, I think this segment needs a lot of explanation to the viewership, right? So therefore, it's important for you to tell us what is the kind of inventory which rides on the Red Bus platform? What's the average occupancy? And I'm not saying getting into route specific, but overall. And how do you see that occupancy post-COVID? And of course, you and I have talked earlier that what you put on your technology platform is one part, but there is a huge part which is outside the technology platform. But we'll come back to that part later. Let's just stay with your current inventories and demands and so on post-COVID.
Yeah, look, there is tons and tons of inventory because bus travel, so if you look at intercity travel, right, at a very macro level, if you look at intercity travel, then about 2/3 of all intercity travel happens on road. We may assume that India, because India is the largest railway network, that India would be transporting the most number of passengers compared to different modes of travel through rail, but that is incorrect. Actually, road travel transports twice the number of people that train does. Just that train is all consolidated into one Indian Railways. And hence there are more than 1 billion rides that kind of happen every day, including intra-city and all of that. But if you look at road travel, it is very, very fragmented. So while the overall number of passengers that is being moved between cities is 2x of that what happens on railway, the inventory is extremely fragmented, and there are all kinds of bus operators, private and government, that are plying buses, right? So what we have focused on so far is the reserved category of bus ticketing. So what we've been doing on Red Bus so far has been that category of buses which accepts reservation and where people can reserve a seat in advance. Only that inventory is available on Red Bus. And within that, there is about close to about 1.5 million tickets to be sold on all the RTC platforms. These are reserved tickets that can be sold. And on the private side, there are about 6.5 to 7 lakh daily inventory of seats which are available, right? Of which we pretty much work with most of these players. So whoever has got a reserved bus ticket, bus running on the road in the country, 95% of them would already be available on Red Bus, and they seek us out. And what is happening in the market over the last 3 or 4 years is that increasingly people had this informal buses that were running. They are all getting more and more formalized, because even in tier 2, tier 3 towns, people are recognizing that through making things reservable, bookable online, it is possible for them to get a better handle on demand. It is possible for them to get a higher price realization. So we are having even those guys who are so far just running buses, on their whims and fancies, wanting to now offer reserved seats, because once you have a reservation based system, then you need to follow a certain schedule. You need to ensure that the seats are, whatever seat is being booked is being given to the passenger. Like Karthik mentioned that even when you book the seat, when he was at IIT Roorkee, he would not get the same seat. But all of those things, if they were to do now, then we would not have them on the platform. So increasingly, it is very, very difficult to quantify actually the number of bus operators who run informally, right? That market is huge. But we have about 1.7 million bus seats of inventory on our platform today.
Right. Well, I'll take you on this reserved business because that gives me a lot of uncomfortable feeling. IRCTCs, the railways, for example, have 23 million seats to offer every day, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And only 10% of them come under the reserved category, which are actually hosted on IRCTC platform, which of course, 85% of them may be booked directly with IRCTC or through the APIs of various OTA. So there is a huge category, which you still in the railways call it unreserved, waiting to get digitalized. And the similar parody I draw with the bus operations, because today with COVID happening and not lining up for queues, etc., there is no choice but to operators to get into a reserved category. But I'll come back to that again because but let's look at the supplier base. There are two ways to get a supplier base according to me. One is there is already a traffic between point A and B, and I have some money in my pocket, or I'm an entrepreneur and say, look, I'm good, Prakashji, I want to buy a bus and I want to host it on your platform. You'll say, good, these are the specifications, go ahead and buy, and I'll show you a minimum return and so on. I get that. The second is Prakash actually saying, look, I want to develop a few circuits, which I know will create a demand in not only in traffic from point A to B, but would be able to actually package it around with holidays and pilgrimage and whatever else. Because another point I'm going to take you on is that why are brands like Globus and Insight such huge brands globally when it comes to bus travel and accommodation being dovetailed with it? And we don't have equivalent of that in India. But I'll come back to that because that's still a complicated question away. So give me, what kind of operators do you get on today, and how do you seek them out, or do you encourage them to go on circuits?
Yeah, it's a combination of both, but largely, as I said, there is right now the focus is on onboarding operators who are currently running services, but they are the IRCTC equivalent of not having reservation. So they are all kind of unorganized, fragmented, smaller base. And it's about going and reaching out to them. And they also reach out to us proactively at times and helping them understand that why coming online is good for them, right? So a lot of the work that we do on the supply side is about, because there is already tons and tons of supply out there, it is about getting them into the online sphere, so to say. And the supply base also is very, very fragmented. Again, if you look at the other modes of intercity transportation, right? There is only one Indian Railways. When it comes to air travel, there are like a handful of players, including big and small, less than 10, less than 5 really matter. But if you look at bus travel, it is a very, very long tail of supply already. So we have it's a classic Pareto. About 20% of suppliers on our base, and 2,500 number is what Karthik had said, 2,500 bus operators on our platform. 20%, 500 of them contribute to about 80% of sales today. But the balance, 80% operators, which is about 2,000 operators, contribute to the other 20%, and they are the ones who are growing faster because they are connecting to more remote locations. They are offering price point equations which are even more favorable. And because connectivity is increasing as we get more and more of these operators coming online, we are able to grow sales faster because of these people. And we have been seeing that over time, the fragmentation on our platform is also increasing. As in, earlier, for example, the top 100 operators would have contributed to about 60 to 70% of our sales, but now that is down to about 50%, right? So the fragmentation also is growing. And when it comes to doing route level insights, suggestions on routing and stuff like that, it works in two ways. One is that our existing fleet operators may come and say, look, I intend adding, 3 or 4 more buses for the upcoming season. Can you please recommend me where should I be putting these buses, right? So we do some demand analytics on our platform, figure out, because there are some complication here when it comes to road travel. One is that he needs to have a maintenance hub. So let's say if he has got a maintenance hub in a town, then it will be difficult for him to run in some other part of the country. So routes have to be, connected to that maintenance hub.
Sure.
And the second part is that the taxation is state specific. So when I'm running a bus, it's not possible for me to run a bus, say between Karnataka to Andhra on one day, and then on the second day run it from Karnataka to Maharashtra, because I paid taxes upfront. In some cases, the period is about a year. In some cases, up to a quarter. So once I made an investment into a particular state tax, road tax, then I need to run it for that amount of time. So we take some of these factors into consideration to kind of advise our partner as to which are the routes that could be more profitable for him. And as far as going and telling operators about, look, we see an opportunity and why don't you start off? That is again something that we do. For example, we saw that Roorkee is a great example actually. So if you look at that entire route going up to Uttarakhand, right, from Delhi, that route didn't have any private bus operators at all. And we were basically, it was just UPSRTC and Uttarakhand Transport Corporation that would run buses there. And because of that, the kind of inventory that could, when it comes to AC buses or sleeper buses that customers prefer, was not there, right? So we actually went out to operators, and this is one example, right? To tell them that, look, if you were to put a bus between Delhi and Dehradun, right, it is quite possible because we see a lot of demand on our platform, and you will likely see enough demand and occupancy. And there are many, many such examples. Chennai, Pondicherry, etc. So the multiple such routes where we keep advising our supply. And beyond that, we also work on specifically improving the quality of supply or improving the experience as well. So Delhi is, the quality of bus operators in Delhi was not that great earlier, right? And as a consequence, basically you had fleet operators who had no staying strength. So they would want to make money every day in order to operate the bus the next day. Because for them, only if they made a certain threshold occupancy, will they have the fuel available to run the bus the next day, right? And that would, and all of you would have experienced it, where the bus would be in the city. The departure time would be 6 o'clock, but it would keep being in the city till 8 o'clock, going from one point to the other, trying to pick up passengers because it has not met that threshold occupancy, right? So through programs like On-Time Guarantee, where we tell the bus operator that, look, we will channel all the demand that we get on our platform into your bus. So you will get that threshold occupancy, but if you are late by more than 30 minutes, then we are going to refund 25% of the ticket cost to all the customers which you have to pay.
Do that,
right? Yeah. So stuff like this. So there are multiple ways in which you kind of work with supply.
Yeah. I see this tax business you're saying, state tax, a big deterrent and for government to change policies, because I had a guest who was founder of one of the largest car rental firms, right? He said, look, if I'm a driver, and today there is a driver-owned operating model, if I'm paying the EMI, if I'm paying the taxes, why should I be stuck around saying, I can't use it for self-drive, I can use it only for chauffeur drive? He says, if I pay, I should be flexible enough to use it as my demand grows between chauffeur drive and self-drive. Similarly, I see it that if I bought a bus, if I've invested in it, come on, don't deter for me that I can't go to Rajasthan, I can only go to UP because I have not paid the tax. So I think that's something which you should, I'm sure you would look at it to lobby with the government, because there's one nation, everything is fine. We need to get into one taxation as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, there is a proposal called One Nation, One Tax,
right?
Which is the draft of that is absolutely ready at the central government level.
Right.
But because this taxation currently is state specific, right? So a lot of states are very similar to the GST issue, where a lot of states today feel that if you move to one tax across the country,
right,
then especially the southern states, because the bus travel is heavily concentrated towards states in the south and west.
Right.
So they feel that they will tend to lose out because the idea is to move to the same kind of all India permit, which is there for trucks.
And smart tags and everything. Yes.
Exactly. So just have one. So if you're operating within a state, you just pay a state tax. But if you're operating between states, you pay one national tax, irrespective of how many state boundaries you cut or cross, or whether you're going to state A or state B. I mean, it is just ridiculous, right? So earlier, for example, buses going from Bangalore to Hyderabad had a certain taxation structure because there were two states involved, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. But then Andhra Pradesh got bifurcated into two, and Hyderabad comes into Telangana. But the route that goes passes through about 30 kilometers of Andhra, right? So you have to pay suddenly 3 state taxes because you're so there are a lot of such complications that happen. Yeah. In fact, Ashish, I mean, given the current situation where we are in, right? It is being on the subject of road tax. So the way taxes are computed is that every vehicle has a seating capacity, and the tax is computed per seat, per quarter, or per year, or in some cases per month.
Whether you sell it or not, is it?
Whether you sell it or not, which is fair, because then the cost of occupancy, I mean, you have to price it intelligently to have more occupancy. Yeah. But today there is a requirement for us to maintain social distancing, and I think it's an absolutely fair requirement given the current situation that we're going through. So the requirement is to reduce the capacity by 50%. Now, at least in this scenario, wouldn't you expect that the seating capacity through a government order has come down by 50%, right? Which means that prices have to go up anyway. But still, there is no clarity as to do you have to. I mean, as per the current rules, governments expect the bus operators to pay tax on every single seat.
When you can't sell it.
When you can't sell it, right? So, and same thing, as I said, there are taxes which have already been paid in advance for the entire year, for the entire quarter. Now, for 2 months, very clearly, as per central orders, buses could not be run. Now, taxes, you're paying tax on a certain business or a revenue. Now, for 2 months, if buses are not run at all, or it couldn't be run because there was a clear order against it, there has to be some relief. I'm saying that people have made that money payment upfront, but there is no relief as of now. So there's a request, that bus operators have been making to the government that you adjust it. You just prolong our, the next time we make our payments, to give us this 2 weeks of relief or 2 months of relief, right? But nothing is forthcoming, and those are the kind of challenges that are there on the ground.
I agree with you, Prakash. In fact, I get pretty excited when I hear on these webinars and experts making statement, domestic demand will grow first. I mean, come on, you haven't looked at the pipeline. The pipeline is so complicated when it comes to domestic, be it rail, be it bus, and so on. But coming back, the first sight you have of customer confidence is the sight on the televisions which you've seen of labor piling on to each other, going back home in buses being left. How would you bring back that consumer confidence? Forgot about the pricing being doubled. Is there a way one will bring that confidence back? That get onto a bus and travel, you're safe. It's okay if you're red bus and you have demand and you say, I maintain this hygiene, but there's a huge lot outside that.
Yeah, Sashi, there are 2 ways of looking at it, right? One is to, of course, give confidence, but the other part is that there is already a lot of pent-up demand. So there are 2 data points for this. So we did a survey amongst our user base to understand what are the travel patterns that are going to happen post lockdown relaxation. This was done about nearly 3 weeks back.
Right.
And 59% of our user base said that they will want to travel within the first month of the lockdowns being lifted. And if you look at the purpose of travel was to either go back to their place of work or go back to their home. So which means that there are a lot of people who are stranded, right? And they all want to return back. So there is a big demand which is already existing today. Then every lockdown, right, every 15 days, 3 weeks, whenever the lockdown would lift, our bus operators would, in anticipation, put the inventory on. And we would have people coming to our website and then booking those tickets in advance, and only to find that after 3 weeks also, there's no relaxation. So we have to go into this process of cancellation and refunding and all of those kind of things. So we said, till we don't have clarity, let us not take any bookings, but let's make people pre-register for travel. All right. So let them come in. They don't find any service, they can pre-register. So we have about close to 600,000 people on our platform who are pre-registered for travel, right? So there is already inherently a lot of people who want to travel. And if you look at some of these corridors, they make a lot of sense. So the number one corridor on which people are wanting to travel is between Telangana and Andhra. But Hyderabad to various cities in Andhra Pradesh, be it Vizag, Vijayawada, Guntur, because probably they're all families, right? Family, somebody's staying there, somebody's home is in Andhra, and there's a huge demand to travel. Second is we see, there is this big route between Delhi to UP and Delhi to Bihar, Varanasi, Allahabad, Patna, very clearly. Then you have a corridor emerging in TN again, between Chennai, Coimbatore, Chennai, Madurai, Chennai, Trichy, Chennai, Tirunelveli. So that is another corridor that is opened up. And then all metros in the south, Bangalore to Hyderabad, Bangalore to Chennai, Bangalore, Vijayawada. So there's a lot of demand which is where it is either not possible for them to travel on their own cars, etc., because people don't have it, or flights are too expensive or not well connected. So they are depending on buses, and not all the train routes are open because a lot of the trains are being put for Shramik specials, right? So only few trains have opened up. But so people are looking to travel. Now what happens is, going forward, my sense of confidence will come from two things. One is, of course, what happens to the economy, and which will depend on how the virus, the contagion is spreading, right? If that is kind of being brought under control, then economy will start bouncing back, and that will intrinsically give people a lot of confidence. And the second thing that will give people confidence is the experience that they have when they travel in bus for the first time. So if they feel that when they traveled, they had a safe experience, that their concerns were taken care of. For example, we all had concerns when I told you that we just restarted office early this week. We started working from Monday onwards. We have all had concerns that, is it safe to come to office, etc., right? But if you just right from the getting into the office building, when you have a thermal check happening, the way getting into the elevator, there are social distancing measures being maintained, only 3 people in the elevator. You come to the office, there is again checking, there is all these various things that we have taken into account in terms of social distancing, no handles. We have got something called like this key. That's a multi-purpose. It's for opening doors, it's for switching on lights, it's for pressing. So with all of these things, and you see all your fellow employees also donning a mask, I've been feeling pretty safe and secure coming to office. I see it no different from being at home, right? So I think when people step out for the first time into any activity, and speaking specifically of bus travel, if they were to travel in bus for the first time, and they are able to get the same sense of comfort and confidence, right? They get the same level of feeling of safety that they're being taken care of. I think then demand will pick up from there.
Right.
So it's a combination of both how economy and the trajectory of the viral spread and the experience that we're able to give. So on that aspect, we are working with every single bus operator in our network. Today is extremely conscious. Gone are the other days when bus operators were these people who were just out there to make a quick buck, etc. A lot of them are the ones who are online are fairly savvy about delivering good customer experience, and this situation has made all of them realize the need to ensure safety, because they don't want to be known here ye bande ko is bus mein travel kar raha tha aur usko COVID ho gaya, right? So they're all very conscious about their brand as well, that it should not get hurt. So they are all very conscious, and there are a lot of steps being taken, right, from ensuring sanitization, hygiene within the bus, and all kinds of protocols have been put in place by the association, by the bus operators themselves. Social distancing rules, even in flights, I think they are still debating whether middle seat to be allowed, not allowed.
Yeah.
Contrasting opinions every day. But here very clearly there is enough social distancing being maintained within the bus. And intrinsically, if you look at bus travel, right, the number of people in a bus is very limited. Now, how does the virus spread? It spreads from people. Now, if you're in an aircraft or in a train, the number of people that you are rubbing shoulders with is far, far higher than what you are doing in a bus. So so just from probability perspective, right, it is lesser. The chances of contracting this on a bus is lesser, and it's more safer.
Right.
So I think there is a lot of awareness. People are extremely conscious. People are motivated and committed to ensure that they provide this experience. And on our platform too, we have taken multiple steps. So we are indicating every bus operator there's a audit mechanism. We are calling out Safety Plus, so people can come and choose those buses. The ratings that we take are more now skewed towards safety, so that that's what people are looking for, right? And then all the passenger guidelines are anyway being put out by the Ministry of Health. So in terms of ensuring that thermal screening happens at the time of boarding, checking for the Arogya Setu app, although it's not mandatory, but it's highly advised that people carry it, and ensuring that people carry their own blankets, own linen, own earphones, because those are not being provided in the bus. So with all these measures, I think it's about execution. At the end of the day, we are waiting eagerly for more of bus travel to open up.
Right.
But I do feel when I see images of air travel with people wearing their visor, and it gives you a sense of comfort and safety, right? So it's just about, I think, same here. It's about execution on the ground.
Right. So quick and last question, I'll slip it in and call it question or call it my own desire. If I look at ticketing of bus on the online travel sites, and I work and interact a lot with, it's just an entry point. They put a Red Bus API because, a customer will be driven, and then from that, they'll try and sell something else. It's not really that they want to make money out of the bus. I doubt it. Even Make My Trip, your holding company would want to do that. But I certainly would want to see them work with you to develop brands like the Globus or the Insight, which are totally inclusive, packed with hotels, etc. And if it can work in Europe and where you're very comfortable, or you can say, oh, they have chemical toilets, they have very good quality, all that is given, right? Do you see that vision happening? That you actually might on certain routes see Globus like, Insight like, Red Bus operating in the same manner, or any other brand?
I think it's possible. And I think you have to tweak that experience for what Indians or Indian travelers are looking for, right? And Karthik had mentioned about pilgrimages as one of the things that we do. So in that, if you look at pilgrimage, our insight on pilgrimage is that when people go on pilgrimage, what they are trying to really do is to have they're most interested in darshan. They want the darshan to be the right experience.
Correct.
Everything else is secondary. Everything else is then geared towards getting the right darshan, right?
Right.
So if you can stitch an end-to-end experience that gives them the right darshan, right? So if they're going to Tirupati, getting the Shivra Darshan ticket, ensuring that they get picked up by a cab from their hotel to the foothills of Tirumala, from where they are put into a TSRTC bus that takes them to Tirupati, and then the darshan is waiting for them. They can order for stuff like the prasad, etc. online.
Bhog laga prasad,
yeah, so that that is all of that is made available to them at the hotel itself, because somebody's already got it. They don't have to stand in a queue. And then even the stay, you're not bothered about the stay. You're actually reaching the stay only for only to quickly freshen up, to have a quick shower before you head off to the darshan, right? So rather than having a full day's stay, you combine this experience of short stays, transportation, in-venue transport, good darshan experience. If you want to book a certain ritual, you can do that online, so that receipt is awaiting you, and with a priest in town who can get it done for you. Now, if you can stitch all these things together, I think it can be a great experience, and that is something that nobody else is doing. So we do see an opportunity there, for example. And
that's how demand has to be created.
Yes.
I mean, there are only 40 million unique domestic travelers, as they call, of air. They would drop down to 5 million, right? And what are you expecting? The whole industry is going to clamor around the 5 million if that's the position? Or you would say, okay, we'll make sure the people who went abroad didn't go abroad, they went to India, but that will happen year one, happen year two. What happens? So you'll have to get the bottom of the pyramid up to make it more inclusive. But Prakash, that's been wonderful talking to you, and I pass you back to Karthik for any audience question or otherwise.
Thanks, Ashish. And Prakash, lovely hearing you. And I think for me, the interesting takeaway was that how you're using data science and analytics to give more insights to the partners around different routes. So I think that's very interesting for many of our audience members to know that there is a science behind how you do this. What I want to know, I have a single question, and some of them I picked from the audience responses as well. So we've talked about how you're working with your bus partners in terms of social distancing, hygiene, sanitation. But is there a structured approach around it from a consumer perspective? So I'll give you an example. We had few days back Rohit Kapoor from Oyo on conversation with us, and he mentioned that although it's a different industry, but still you can always draw parallels. So he mentioned about they're creating something called a sanitized stay. So somebody who follows over and above the government standards by Oyo will get on their platform a special tag saying sanitized, certified by Oyo, which means that you have been given, you've taken extra due diligence and care. Similarly, when I see products like Swiggy, in which they mention that in certain restaurants that the temperature check has been done and this is the temperature, this is the live photo of, the people working in the kitchen. So do you see any parallels like that? Yes, maybe bus driver's photo and this is his temperature, a 1 hour before, and he's fine. He's got a certification from the, medical council that he's fit to drive. He doesn't have any symptoms. He has taken a test. So from a consumer perspective, how do you, so we've talked about confidence being given in terms of, word of the mouth and people just getting comfort in terms of what they see. But from your perspective, technologically, do you see some of these things being built into the consumer experience, how they use your product, how you use your app? Because pre-booking, they are literally relying on you for the entire experience advice, right? I mean, only when they go onto a bus, they can experience it. But before that, it's a heavy trust on you for the entire experience and their safety. So that's one. And second is over and above these COVID related features, which I'm talking about, are you also planning some new features around consumerization, be it around entertainment, for example? I know you've integrated few entertainment related products onto your app, but what's the innovation roadmap around? Because there's only, sometimes people think that there's only limited you could do in a thing like a bus booking, right? You book a bus, you have got a basic entertainment app in the Redbus app, and that's it. But do you see any more sort of innovation around making the consumer experience much better?
Sure. So Karthik, so the first point about the consumer experience and all the touch points, a lot of what you said is there in the Redbus app too, right? So right from tagging bus operators who are mandatorily following these procedures, they're calling them as safety plus bus operators. There are very specific tags that we pull out from the reviews that customers give us. We learn from what are the things that the bus operator is doing correctly, which are those safety aspects where he's delivering even better on, and those things get pulled out and shown as tags. And to ensure that at the back end that these things are working fine, right? We have got 3 layers of checks. One is when a bus operator is certifying, they need to certify that they have done these checks, etc. They have got these procedures in place. There's a second level of check that is done by our team who's there on the ground, which are surprise checks, surprise audits to ensure that these things are being followed. And the third level of check is that we are encouraging our own customers to be the point of check at the time of when they are traveling, just to ensure that every single item that we are talking about in terms of provision of sanitizer inside the bus, ensuring that thermal screening of all the passengers are happening, that the crew themselves are wearing protective gear. All of these things are being checked. There's a checklist that customers kind of help just check and give us, and we are incentivizing them to be able to give this feedback to us so that we are able to go back and talk to operators, because they may have the right intent, but there could be some execution gaps along the ground, right? So how can we give that feedback and plug it? We are also thinking about a fourth dimension, which is to get a third-party audit mechanism going, so that over and above all this, can you get a big company which specializes into auditing? Can we contract them to go and audit this so that it becomes a neutral third-party check as well? So we are working on that as we speak. So there are all these mechanisms of check happening. All of this feeds back into the product in terms of tags and in terms of call-outs on the product. The ratings are skewed more towards safety, right? So we have got all these things into the product. And as far as innovation is concerned, look, earlier when we started out, it was a ticket booking application. Right. The job itself was to aggregate all this disaggregated, unorganized inventory, and that itself was a lot of value creation. But with mobile coming in, right, we were able to really rethink our own role from being a ticket booking platform to be a true travel companion for a user. So there are multiple things that we do in terms of experience delivery for customers, right from navigating them to the boarding point, because unlike trains and flights, there are no main boarding terminals for buses, right? It's more informal, etc. If you're new to a city, you do not know where you are. So right from navigating to the boarding point, checking out the boarding point photographs where you are standing to ensure you're at the right place, putting tracking on the bus to say where is your bus, what time is it going to come in, ensuring that you get a wake up call, because 95% of bus travel is overnight. So when you're always anxious that are you going to be not missing your stop. So you get a wake up call 10 minutes before your location is going to be reached. So there are all these different things that we have built over a period of time to enhance user experience. And as and when we keep working, and as and when we see user problems, we keep looking at, like I spoke to you about the on-time guarantee program. So that is again a way to enhance customer experience by ensuring that there is timely departure of buses, right? So these are all the things that we do from a point of view of improving customer experience.
No, fair enough. I think that's very interesting to know. Ashish, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I think we'll catch up more. There's a lot to talk about.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Prakash, for being with us. We had so much of learnings, and what we also do is at the end of the session, we'll also publish a key takeaways for our audience to have a summarized view of whatever we have discussed. So I'm sure they're going to learn a lot. So with this, we are at the end of this session. Thanks so much again, Prakash. Thanks, Ashish. Thanks, audience, for being with us. And stay safe, stay at home. And we're going to be back next week with our session. Till then, take care.
And Prakash, you have a long road ahead, as this.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Ashish.